Well, thanks for everybody coming out this afternoon. Several of you all had questions regarding the homicides recently experienced here in Lexington, so I wanted to update you on what the investigators and the cases that we have currently and go over a few of those. First thing I'd like to announce and update you on is on the press release that you see that we have obtained warrants for 5 individuals involved in one of our recent homicides. The press information officers will get you that information. Warrants have been obtained for, I think, 3 adults and 2 juveniles. Is that correct? 3 adults, 2 juveniles. Kenyon Hips, Marquise Smith, and juvenile. It's actually 3 juveniles and 2 adults. We'll get that information in the photographs we have for you. We're still working that case as we speak. If we can look at our homicides that have occurred this year in Fayette County, wanting to go over a few of those and update you on where we stand right now. The first homicide occurred at 432 Roosevelt Boulevard, and that was on January 1st of 2016. That is a case that is still very fluid, still very active, that we are working. The investigators have advised me that we know through the victimology where our victim was, all the way up to his residence at that time, at which time he received a phone call and that victim left to go meet someone. And that was the last time he was seen. So we're asking people in the community, if you have information, to forward it to us. We need the information about who his friends were, who he was visiting, and if anyone has the information on who he's visiting that night at the last time that he was seen, we would appreciate it. That occurred at approximately 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning that he left his residence to go meet an individual. If you have that information, you can give it to us directly at the police department. If you don't feel comfortable with it, we have a system in place, our Crime Stopper system. 1, you can be paid for the information if you want to be paid for the information. 2, it is completely anonymous. You can send it in, and we don't track the ISP addresses, we don't track phone addresses or the phone numbers. You can anonymously give that information and be assured that your information won't be released. We just want the information, not the individual giving the information. The second homicide occurred on 845 Red Mile Road, and that was on January 3rd. That was a case of 3 individuals that went to a party together. The victim and the suspect knew each other. We've made an arrest in that case. We've turned that over to the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. It is an ongoing criminal case, and we would defer anything to Mr. Larson's office regarding that. I do want to make sure everybody knows that the individuals knew each other, and they were there together, and they were willingly there together when the homicide occurred. Our last homicide was 1499 Russell Cave Road. That was on January 12th, 2016. Once again, this is a case that we're currently working. We are very confident and hoping to make an arrest soon on that. Once again, it is a case where our victim met an individual and had contact with that individual, and we're working through those issues right now and trying to firm up our investigation. It is not a random act. It was 2 individuals that knew each other, that met each other. We're currently working that, and it's a very fluid investigation, meaning it is ongoing at this current time, and investigators are out in the field. With all those cases, with Roosevelt Boulevard is the one we're asking right now because we know where our victim was the first homicide of the year, and why the victim left the house is what we're trying to determine and to get the information on that. The other cases right now, we have firm suspects in that we're looking at, have made an arrest, or hope to make an arrest soon. Any questions I can answer about those?
Common denominators, and I guess average person's thinking 2016 is starting off awfully rough.
Exactly. We're looking at, it's an anomaly for Lexington. We've been in homicide, Commander Lyons and I before. You were there. We had Ricky Sharon, who killed 3 people in one day in Lexington. That's an anomaly. We look at this year as an anomaly. It's not an everyday occurrence. But I think by going through and updating you on this information, our first victim was contacted by someone and went to meet that individual. Individuals on Red Mile knew the individual they were with. University Avenue, we knew that they were going to a high-risk area or visiting a high-risk area, and were approached by the victim or suspects. And on Russell Cave, we think we have a connection between our victim and our homicide suspect. So these aren't random acts. They are acts that are associated around risk behaviors. So I would caution you, if you're going to a residence that has a high-risk behavior, such as selling narcotics, such as gang members, such as any illegal activity that's going to attract other activity, I wouldn't go. If you're meeting someone for illegal activity, you have to be cautious about it and understand that it could lead to a high-risk behavior. Those are the indicators of commonality that we have currently for these homicides. I did ask Mr. Larson to come in. This is not something that we haven't looked at. This is not something we weren't unaware of, the national trends coming in. He and I sat down last year looking at some of the issues that were facing us with violent crime and the victimization of individuals, and so we wanted to address it through certain programs that we had in place. We have started the ceasefire group back up. Mr. Larson has been a leader in that and bringing people to the group. So I want to give him an opportunity to talk about the individuals that we're encountering, the individuals that we have encountered, and continually bring to his office for prosecution. So, Mr. Larson.
Thanks, Chief. I get a call every time there's a homicide in town from Lieutenant Brad Ingram over there. And my wife asks me what's going on, and I tell her. It's been another homicide. And so I'm starting to get the question from my wife, well, what are you going to do about it? And first of all, Lexington is not immune from the national uptick in homicides. And we're there right now, this time of 2016. We started the ceasefire project again. And what the ceasefire project is, it brings together the federal, state, and county prosecutors, federal, state, and local police, and probation and parole. And we consider all gun-related crimes that have occurred in Lexington, because that's an issue now. So we're starting to see gun-related crimes. It doesn't take a genius to say the police responded to shots fired in a neighborhood around Lexington, because there's a lot of that. It used to be 2 or 3 shell casings at a shots fired area. We have had as many as 50 shell casings in a shots fired area. And that is really concerning, because sooner or later, these random, thank God these guys are pretty bad shots, or we'd be coming up on dead bodies. So, here's what we're finding in town now. Gang violence is increasing in our town. Gun violence is increasing in our town. The don't snitch culture is alive and well in our town. And as a result, we put together the ceasefire project. Now let me give you some numbers. Since the first of the year, our office is tracking 93 pending gun-related cases. The people who are charged in those gun-related cases, 41 are charged with robbery, armed robbery, convicted felon in possession of a handgun. That's pretty scary. 7 are burglary cases, and 2 are assault cases, and we have the others that go along with it. We do an intensive criminal records check on these yo-yos, and I'll tell you, 63 have a prior criminal conviction record. 15 don't out of this number. 15 juveniles have prior criminal record. Now here's a big issue for us. I don't know how many of you have ever heard me whine about the House Bill 463, that catch and release soft on crime criminal friendly law that our legislature passed. but it's the one that sort of wants people out of custody. From pretrial to probation to parole. Let them out. Keep them out. Well, on the custody status of those 91, 37 are in custody, 42 are out. We have 5 of the 91 are on probation, 3 are out on bond, and 6 juveniles are out. Gang validation. The police department has a superior gang resource unit. And if you all want to do an interesting story, you ought to talk to them. We have 12 of these thugs are gang validated in our town. People are being probated. People out of custody. Pretrial release happens at the jail by pretrial services with AOC. People who are charged with criminal in possession, prior criminals on probation with outstanding warrants because they violated the conditions of their probation. Probation and parole, along with the gang resource unit of the police department and the clear unit, are going out checking on these characters. And if they're in violation or they've got warrants, they're put in custody. Because let me tell you something about custody. We know 2 things about criminals and custody. When they're on the streets, they commit crimes. And when they're in custody, they don't. We owe more to the good guys in this town than we do the bad guys. And that's what ceasefire is doing. Why are the feds involved? Because guess what? They put them in federal prison and they have to serve 85% of their time. It's important. These people that use guns in the commission of crimes, we want them in custody because the public's entitled to be protected from these outlaws. So, there you have it. Thanks.
I had a question, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Is there any indication that of these murders, any are in retaliation for a prior one?
We don't see anything connecting these 4 homicides together at this time, or in retaliation for another act. So,
Are you at liberty to speak about where exactly you are in your investigation with the Howard murder?
no. We want to keep everything as very fluid that we're working on right now.
Question about the one that happened last night at McDonald's. Was he shot there at McDonald's, or was he shot somewhere else trying to drive to the McDonald's and that's where he crashed?
I don't want to give the information out that the investigators are looking at right now because we're still speaking to individuals that have information regarding that. That'll be out pretty soon. I'm hoping that we make an arrest in that.
And are you thinking arrest next couple hours, days?
I have no idea. We have to let the investigation unfold and follow all the information, the forensic information that we're getting, along with witness statements.
Any real tangible correlation to a new year and an uptick? I mean, is there anything you could point to?
No, the homicides are very, unless they are related, and what Mr. Larson's talking about, whether it's a gang-related homicide that's continuing going on in retaliation, these aren't indications of that. They're very individualistic. Sometimes we've had domestic violence issues, and those increase in the winter months. We had a recent case that I think the officers did an outstanding job. They could have easily been a homicide had they not intervened. So we have those cases, domestic violence. You're looking at a country right now that's plagued with illegal drug use, addiction issues, broken family issues, societal issues, and I think you're seeing that increase. Not here in Lexington, everywhere across the United States. And like Mr. Larson says, we're not immune from those societal issues. Okay, anyone else?
Are these homicides linked to armed robberies? Is there also an uptick there?
I think if you look at some of the information we're providing on the press releases, I think some of the warrants, what the warrants are for, I can't really speak to those. I will say that those go to Mr. Larson's office, and he is, very secure in his prosecution, and we don't like to discuss those cases, but you can look on there and see what the warrants are for robbery and murder on those.
Do you know if individually any of these could be tied to gang?
We have no indication of that right now.
Thanks.
All right, thank you all, appreciate it.